Hi, folks, and welcome back to another episode of Craft on Tap, where we talk about growth marketing for RIAs. We are your hosts, Stephen Beach and Faustin Weber with Craft Impact. We are an outsourced CMO and digital marketing team for RIAs who are growing via organic. And today we're going to talk about marketing metrics that financial advisors should be tracking in 2026, or at least considering in 2026. So we did an episode, our episode 3, if anybody wants to scroll back and check that out, from mid 2025, where we talked about how we build KPIs per client for us and kind of what goes into that and how we consider different KPIs and we match them to the firm's goals and just kind of more about our process for it. So you might like to go back and check that episode out. It's a quick 15-minute quick hitter. But today we're going to talk a little bit more about, like, more broadly about, an update on kind of things we're monitoring in the space, things that we're seeing now, the things that we're kind of consistently reporting on across our clients, in the hopes that, these will likely be applicable to you in some way. So we've got 6 top metrics that we're going to talk through a little bit about why we chose those. And I'm sure there's more. And we'd love to hear if you want to add to this list. We could get out to 60, but just for the sake of our conversation today, we're going to stick to these. All right. So Faustin, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah. So number one is just our North Star always is the AUM growth of the firm. Quarterly AUM growth, monthly AUM growth. Just are we progressing to where we want to be in terms of our goals for the year? Are we building up potential revenue opportunities through that AUM growth? I think that is always something that informs every other marketing metric there is. And I think that's what we always tell clients, that's what we're going for from all sources, right? From referral sources, from digital marketing sources, from presentations that you might do at a conference sources, all contribute to that overall AUM growth. And so we always make sure we keep that as the directional goal that we're going for. Stephen, I know we've discussed this in length, is that there's a lot of owners, firm partners out there that want to draw A to B causation line between particular tactics that you would do in the marketing space, or specific, the ROI of a particular post even. And we always go back to this overall, like, is the firm progressing in the right direction in terms of AUM growth? We'll sometimes see a lot of referrals that happen in a particular quarter. Sometimes we'll see a little bit of dried up digital leads, but we'll get a huge outpouring of referral growth, and then vice versa the next quarter. And so a lot of times, like when we have these discussions about, hey, is our marketing working? We go back to the AUM growth rate. Did we just have the best quarter that we've ever had as a firm, right? And so I think that, we're always looking for that correlation between our activities and some of the metrics that we're going to talk through for numbers 2 through 6. But I think overall, overarching, are we growing on a quarter by quarter basis, AUM wise? Stephen, would you add anything to that?
Just again, we did an episode. Our first episode was on ROI. So again, if you want to go backwards and kind of check that out, we talk about, usually our North Star is this, AUM goal, or something around, number of new households, or amount of AUM per quarter, amount of AUM per year. And I tell folks, since it is really hard to measure, marketing attribution in 2026 is very difficult to really nail down. It's not, a lot of times it's not black or white as far as, who gets credit for what lead, for what client, and so on. There's a lot of touch points that occur. So at the high level, and this is what we discussed in the first episode, is just, are you growing at a faster rate than you were previously before you hired us or whoever the marketing group is? So let's say in 2024, you added 50 million of net new AUM, and then you're evaluating a partnership with us, and you're going to spend 6 figures on us. Let's just say you're going to spend 120 grand a year on us, 10 grand a month. So in 2024, you added 50 million in net new AUM. What's our number that we need to add now for 2025 that would make you guys excited to pay 10,000 a month and invest in generating more AUM? So is it 60 million? Is it 70 million? Is it 80 million? It depends on the firm and preferences and your growth track and so on and so forth. But generally speaking, if we're adding more than we did in the previous years, and we're seeing this kind of upward trajectory of net new AUM, everybody's happy, and we can see that your marketing investment is paying off. So, just at a very like high level, kind of a simple way to look at it, is our marketing fee offset or close to offset by the net new AUM, the delta of your net new AUM, last year versus this year. That's kind of how we want to frame it a lot of times.
I love that. Yeah, so often, right? Like to double click, as that's going to be our new catchphrase. To
We
double
dropped
click on
mental
what you
load and
said
now we're
about
doing
the
double click,
attribution.
huh?
Yeah, it's like we just had a client who was saying, "Hey, we're having multiple referrals that are coming in, but in further discovery, we're learning that the clients that referred them were enjoying some of the short form videos that we were doing on LinkedIn, right? Or that they were reading through the newsletter that we sent out that had some of our articles that we've been sharing. It's like, who gets the credit there, right? Is it the referral from the client service, or is it the fact that there's this combination of great client service and them seeing this great marketing material that you're doing? So that's why we just have AUM as the overall growth factor, especially
Sure.
since we have more data ever available to us in 2026, but it's harder than ever to figure out exactly where that initial thing happened, the initial awareness piece. So, okay, so number two, so very closely aligned, Stephen, right, is discovery calls, right? So qualified discovery calls is what we want to say for the second metric, really the gold standard of marketing, right? If AUM is our North Star, the discovery call is technically where that the marketing may end and that sales enablement piece, your sales process begins, right? But we want to get as many qualified discovery calls as possible, again, from as many sources as we can. Uh, Not a lot to say there, Stephen, other than that's what everyone wants, right? We just want more bites at the apple for all of our clients.
Yeah, easy thing to measure too, right? So,
Yeah.
calendar bookings, contact us forms filled out, however you have it set up. Pretty easy to measure, pretty black and white. So yeah. Now, as far as determining whether they're qualified, that might be, you might have an extra step there. We've seen firms that will rate their prospects on a scale of 1 to 5, in terms of like how good of a fit they are. Sometimes you can figure that out ahead of time before you even get on a call. Sometimes not. Sometimes they'll mask themselves in a way. You think it might be a really good prospect coming on, and then you get on a call and it turns out they have, I don't know, 100 grand in student loan debt and not that high of an income. It's like, oh gosh, okay, never mind. Probably not going to be the best fit for what we're trying to do here. So yeah, pretty easy to measure. Sometimes you can add a rating system, or at least take some notes, put some attribution notes in your CRM on the person to just start to try to measure how many are qualified. Because we could do things to generate a lot of discovery calls, but it might be kind of penny wise, pound foolish if we do that when the discovery calls are not going to be qualified. If people don't have the income or the minimums that you're trying to bring clients in at, then it kind of defeats the purpose. So first step, measuring discovery calls. Second step, qualifying. Yeah.
One of my favorite experiences with a client a few years ago, the president of the firm got really convinced that there were these outside ad agencies that were very persuasive, and so we ended up like partnering with one of these ad agencies, and we got all sorts of discovery calls booked as a result of this. It's just no one ever showed up. When they did show up, they were like from India, and it was very difficult to even to understand what they were trying to get out of the call. And so after about like 2 months of having, 25, 30 calls booked that resulted in zero actual like next steps, we decided to abandon that approach. So and Stephen and I have some really, I don't want to say negative connotations around pay-per-click ads in the space, especially when you're thinking about affluent clients with $1 million, $2 million, $5 million and up in assets. But you can go back and check out. We have an episode on paid ads that kind of gets into that a little bit.
Yes,
Um,
quick summary. There's a time and a place for paid ads. You most likely should not be starting there. And if you're looking for a silver bullet, like if I just throw 20 grand at paid ads and hopefully I'll get a few good leads from it and then it'll all be worth it, you're looking at it the completely wrong way. So go listen to the episode. I think it'd be really helpful. All
yeah.
right. That's a
All right.
that's
So
a
number
plug
one
for
and
the
two.
paid
So those
ads
are kind
episode.
of, yeah, number one and two. Those are kind of like easy ones, right? AUM, discovery calls. Number three, I think this is interesting. It's like who refers the most and how are they engaging with your marketing content, right? Um, we talk all the time about referrals, how important they are. And I think sometimes referrals advisors will think like, oh, like it's a passive thing, right? Like where the referrals are just happening as a result of the experience that they've had. And we think about it more of like, hey, we're accelerating the referral opportunities because we're going to do great marketing that's going to get in front of a lot of your clients, and that's going to keep you top of mind as a firm, and they're going to have much more a higher likelihood of introducing you to their friends and colleagues and family members as a result of that. And so it's really important. A lot of firms benefit from referrals all the time, but they don't necessarily track who's doing the referring, right? And how many times they've referred and what kinds of clients are coming as a result of those referrals. Because I think if you do that, you can really see who your biggest evangelists are as a firm. Then you can dive in and discover a little bit more about what kind of content they're engaging with. So we always see a correlation between, hey, if we start digging into this client that's referred 10, 15, 20 people over the last few years, they're also the ones that are the most highly engaged with particular types of subjects that we share in the newsletter, or they're the ones that are always liking posts on Instagram or LinkedIn, right? And so that can give us a lot of good information about, what we're doing next in our marketing work. It just kind of crystallizes it for us. But unless you have that data, unless you're tracking it as a metric, sometimes it feels like those referrals are just coming in randomly. Whereas in reality, you have a lot of great evangelists for your firm. Does that make sense, Stephen?
Awesome. Might be probably I think for a lot of firms the Pareto's rule applies here where it's 80% of your results are coming from 20% of your people in terms of qualified referrals. So yeah, like you said, we would call them evangelists or people who are doing the most referring and referring the best people to you. And taking that a step further, I think that's brilliant, exactly what you said, but taking it a step further, yeah. So like we want to just feed those people, more and more of that same content that they are demonstrating an interest in. So gives you, like you said, it crystallizes kind of the types of content, the topics, the channels, that kind of thing that you should be focusing on and just kind of doubling down in those areas to kind of keep feeding that 20% of your people, of your
Yeah.
referral sources.
Especially if they work at a particular company and you see a lot of colleagues coming in from that company and they're referring, then you can think like, hey, should we do more company specific marketing like we talked about a couple of episodes ago? So it just gives you a lot more information about what's happening, right? Especially if you're getting a lot of discovery calls. If you're not tracking it, if you're not going back in and saying, asking them who they were referred by or having it as part of your intro call system, like where you would even have it on a form, like who referred you, right? So that you can go ahead and get it in a spreadsheet before they even meet. It's hard to know unless you've done that due diligence. So that would be
Well,
number three.
one more thing there, just another idea that popped in my head. But if you have a list of those evangelists, those folks that are referring you most often, yeah, you can think of different ways to kind of market to them, but also give them a different client experience. I mean, think about the ways you can. I think a lot of people are familiar with the concept of unreasonable hospitality from the restaurant in New York, and just delighting those people. You could host different events for them. You could be sending them different types of gifts, more often than you would otherwise. That you could be treating them, not that you treat your clients that you want to, treat your clients differently, but everyone gets a high level of client service, but you can do extra things, kind of because if you have those people segmented out, you can even go a little bit above and beyond. And I think for those people, now you would know that it's worth it because they've demonstrated, that they're willing to give qualified referrals over time. So you
Love
could
that.
just layer on top, I think, of not just content, but like, think of events or think of client gifts or, different experiences you could create for them. And you'll just see the referrals continue to grow.
Yeah, I love that. I would say too, like some of the referral coaches that we worked with in the space, Stephen, that is really, it's a simple idea, but pretty impactful, I think, of just closing the loop with the person that did the original referral, right? Like once that person's had a good experience that was referred and has become a client, like just closing the loop with the first person who referred and just thanking them for the introduction, and that can go a really long way too, in addition to the gifts and whatnot.
That's a big
Uh,
one. Yes. Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara of 11 Madison Park. If you're not familiar with that, Google that, 11 Madison Park. And yeah, it just goes into the restaurant hospitality business and just how they look at, creating these exceptional brand experiences for their guests. And a lot of financial advisors have started to catch on to this, and like kind of, we've even seen a firm that has a dedicated person on their staff that is meant to create unique experiences for their top clients. So it's pretty cool. But that kind of falls in line here with your referral sources.
yeah, nice. Okay, so number 4. Okay, so homepage visits to your firm website and then branded search queries. Kind of group these into the same spot. So, how many people are actually visiting your homepage of your site based on them searching for your brand or for individuals, that advisors that you're trying to position as being the people that are the money makers for the firm, right? Or the people you're trying to position to drive more awareness for the firm. It seems like a simple thing, right? But I'm not talking about blog article traffic. I'm not talking about people that are finding you through Google, where they would search for a particular subtopic and then stumble onto your article. I'm talking about people that know your brand already. I think this is really important because we know that all the different social channels, right? Even YouTube, but all the Instagrams and the LinkedIns and the TikToks of the world, they are built right now, the algorithms, to keep you on the platform, right? And so you want to like really drive home your marketing efforts in that particular platform based on where your audience is living. But the way people are using Google right now, and they're looking up the brand that they've seen on one of the platforms, right? So to try to crystallize this a little bit, let's say that you have an Instagram follower that's been watching all of your videos, right? Eventually that person is going to have a catalyst or something in their life where they want to reach out to an advisor. Your brand name, the individual name of the advisor or the brand name is in their mind. They're going to go to Google to try to figure out what that URL is to get to the homepage. And so I think just tracking that on a quarter by quarter basis, you're obviously going to get a little bit of overlap from your current clients who are trying to get to your site as well. But if you see steady growth, right, factoring in seasonality, if you see steady growth quarter to quarter on people that are looking you up, right, which is what those branded queries would be, like what people would type into Google, then I think that's a good indicator of your awareness growing across all the platforms. Because again, you're not always going to see people jumping off of Instagram and going onto a site to read a blog article. You're not going to see them jumping from LinkedIn when you share a URL and going to, a part of your website. So I think that what you can track is, are more people looking you up as an individual advisor and the firm overall? And that gives you a good signal that your marketing is working elsewhere.
Really good. I think this is so another way to say it. This is probably the simplest way to measure your brand awareness, in a digital world.
Yeah.
So, how many people know about you as a personal advisor and or your firm brand? And just trying to, like you said, it's good. Establish a baseline because you got current clients that'll come on your website to, log into Orion or eMoney, whatever it is. But then establish that baseline, but then see what the growth is quarter over quarter. And it's really a simple way to kind of measure like all the other things. We talk about an omni-channel approach sometimes, and we're doing things with social and video and just all kinds of different tactics we're trying out. Like, it's a very simple way to measure like how much of that is working. And it's not like you can get super detailed into it like we used to be able to, like exactly. We used to be able to tell a lot more, with your homepage visitors and your website visitors. We used to be able to track them better than we do now, just for privacy reasons and how things have evolved. But still, it's just a really good, like, high end metric to track your brand awareness. That's all. I'll try to summarize it by saying that. Um, yeah, so Google Analytics would be great for this. Google Search Console. If people aren't familiar with Google Search Console, it's a free tool. It takes 10 minutes to set it up. You kind of verify that you're the owner of the website, and then it gives you really good data and really good information for people that are they're typing your firm name in, or your individual advisor name into a Google search query. So yeah, good way to measure kind of across the board if your brand awareness is increasing or not.
Yeah, really well said. And just, that people are still using Google. A lot of the data that comes out, like, I mean, Google's still the absolute dominant force. There's even data that's going out saying that, like, people using the LLMs like Gemini, ChatGPT are actually using the regular Google, more traditional search. It makes them even want to use it more, right? So, just wanted to kind of anticipate people still worried about, hey, everyone's moving away from Google, and just want to say, like, people are not all moving away from Google. Um, so I think that's really well said. Okay. If you want to get a little bit more advanced, you can get in there to Google Analytics and you can see like the second step, right? Like, where are people going from when they get to your homepage? Like, where are they going next? That's not something that we would track with every single one of our clients, but can give you a lot of good information about, like, differentiating between people that are just going to the client portal, for instance, versus somebody that's going to learn more about your financial planning process. Give you a little bit more data there around, like, how the increase in number of people that are trying to learn about your firm versus the ones that are returning visitors that come back and just want to use your website page as a jumping off piece to their Orion portal, for instance.
I'll just say one more thing about this topic because it came up yesterday on a call. So I think a lot of times advisory firms, they'll come to us, they'll come to a marketing person or start to research marketing folks because they need more leads. Like they're like, we can
Yeah.
close them, we just need more leads. Like, can you get us more leads? And a lot of times, I mean, the answer is yes over time, but a lot of times we have to start with this kind of awareness piece and branded search, which is, yeah, using your name or your advisor name. And because if you have 100 visitors to your website and 70 of those are a month and 70 of those are your clients, we're really not going to be able to generate a lot of leads off those 30 strangers. It's not, even if you have a crazy high conversion rate, it's just not enough. So we need to build traffic. We need to build brand awareness across the channels. So that's usually one of our first steps. Unless you are a firm who's been doing content marketing for years, and we've worked with these firms too, and then it's a different strategy. Like we can look at it in a totally different way. But a lot of times firms are like, we're doing great work. Our clients love us. We're pretty unique in the space. Just nobody knows about us. Like we need to like get the word out, and we need more leads. It's like, okay, then what the first thing we're going to do really is try to establish more brand awareness. And it comes back to this, how are we going to measure that? Comes back to this number 4. We're going to look at homepage visits and branded search queries. Then we'll see over time, like across all these tactics that we're doing, then we're going to build your brand awareness. And then we can really start to talk about conversion and doing that at some scale. So anyhow, just kind of wanted to add that on.
Nice. Okay, so let's jump into number 5 now. Number 5 is a little bit like, it's like cheating a little bit because we were trying to get the number down, and it's a lot of different metrics, but we're calling them deep engagement signals. So this is really for your social platforms, but it could be for your website as well, and for your newsletter. It's really like an indicator going deeper than just the surface level analytics that you might see. So analytics that you might see that are really nice to, they're kind of like vanity metrics in a sense, like the number of views, the number of likes on a particular post, the number of times your video was watched, right? Those are things that I think are great if they're super high, but they don't always give you a good indicator of whether or not your content's resonating in the way that you want, right? You can have a million views on YouTube for a YouTube short, for instance, but then you dive deeper a little bit and you realize that everyone swipes away within the first 5 seconds, right? Um, so that doesn't always happen because it won't continue to serve to other people if people aren't watching it. But sometimes like the title and the headline are enticing enough that you get a lot of people to click in, but then people are not staying for very long. So it's a good example of like how sometimes with the marketing numbers that you might see, it's not always telling the full story. And so when we talk about deep signals, right? Deep engagement signals, we're talking about like meaningful comments on a post, right? Let's say on a LinkedIn or Instagram post where somebody's taken the time to like demonstrate that they've understood what the video is saying or what the caption is saying, and they actually are sharing something about their life or something about their experience in the professional world. Direct messages that result as um, direct messages that come as a result of a post. Somebody actually like DMs you afterwards and has something to say about the content that you did. Um, Profile visits, and you can see this on your on LinkedIn in particular. If you go into a particular post, you can see how many profile visits resulted as a result of the post that you did. Like somebody was engaged so much with your content that they were like, "Who is this person?" And they clicked in and wanted to learn more about you, right? Um, then we have here as well, like your content is saved, like somebody saves your content on LinkedIn, or they share your content on Instagram, which you can see like the number of shares for the particular posts. Um, and then last thing I have here is just like watch time, like your average watch time on Instagram and Facebook that you can dig into on the professional accounts. You can get those analytics. And then on YouTube, like how many people are staying for 30 to 60 seconds before they jump out, right? Before they bounce off your video. What's your average watch time on YouTube? Is your YouTube audience United States based geographically, or are they all coming from Pakistan, right? Which is what can happen. So,
That's a big one. Yeah.
so this is kind of like cheating a little bit because it's a bunch of different signals, but it's kind of like the metrics that go deeper in this type of content, more so than just like what you can see in terms of impressions and views.
Yeah, that's really good. A couple stories. One, yeah, we've seen clients that, have a lot of YouTube views, and then you dig into it, and you can see this reporting inside of YouTube, and it's like 73% of them are coming from Indonesia and Pakistan, and it's like, well, these probably are not qualified prospects that are watching these videos.
Yeah.
So we got a lot
Or
of
even
views.
real
That's
people.
cool.
Yeah.
Or even, yeah, it could be, yeah, bots, who knows? Zuckerberg's bots. So that one, yeah, I was gonna say too, like, there's a lot of marketing folks, or you may have just been, trained to think this over time. Like, what do you measure? Likes, the thumbs up on your post or the hearts on your post. Those can be manipulated, if you will, or just they could be friends and family more than anybody, right? So it's like, who's liking that? Are they vendors trying to sell you something, trying to get your attention, or are they actual prospects that fit your ICP that are looking at your stuff? You got to look at that. You got to go beyond. This is like number 5 for us, is like going beyond the surface level of metrics. Going beyond the surface level of these analytics that a lot of these platforms will give you, but they can be misleading. Another story, we had an advisor doing email marketing for a long time, getting I don't know, what was the open rate? It was some
It's like
crazy
75 or 80%. It was just something
75,
wild.
80% open rate, and then like a crazy click rate, like 20, 30% of people were clicking something in the email. It's just like, holy smokes, this must be the best email marketer, financial advisor we've ever seen. And then you look into it, and it's like, actually, it's a MailChimp problem where some bot is clicking his address in the footer of the email thousands of times. Like, okay, that's probably not a real person. Um, Even if one client or a few clients would do that to get the address to go in for the client meeting, I mean, that's not happening at hundreds and thousands of people. So it's like, this is just bot traffic that's completely misleading. So we got to go beyond that and look, yeah, to the deeper signals, the more personalized signals that you mentioned. So yeah, that's good. Just to recap, saves and sends of your posts, meaningful comments, direct messages, profile visits, and looking at the people who are actually visiting your profiles. Again, are those vendors? Are those like colleagues? Are they other advisors? Or are they real prospects that are looking at your stuff? If you're going after, business owners in Oklahoma, are they business owners in Oklahoma? And then lastly, watch time, for YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. So that'd be a quick recap. But yeah, a couple funny stories there. It takes some time and some effort, but you got to go beyond the surface level. You got to dive down to 30 feet. You can't stay snorkeling at the top. Got to take the dive out.
Yeah. I'm guilty of this too as a marketer though. Like I mean, I don't mind tens of thousands of views for a client. Like,
Oh
right?
yeah,
That gets me really excited. I can get the client really excited, but then I have to take a step back and say like, okay, like what does that actually mean? That's what we talked about with
yeah.
our one advisor who had all of a sudden thousands of podcast downloads overnight. And I'm like, well, part of me is like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. And then a part of me is like, whoa, like that's a red flag there, right? And we
Who
did
are
some
these people?
investigation and
Yeah,
realized that they were probably real based on what we had seen. But you just have to dig deeper with some of the stuff. Like you have to dig into the analytics a little bit to figure out exactly what's moving the needle and what's not, because it's just the
yeah.
surface level data is not good. Yeah, not
Well, and
always
on that note, like
indicative.
marketers,
Yeah,
a lot of marketers. I'm glad you are being vulnerable on this podcast today, Faustin, because you said you're guilty of this too. I think a lot of marketers are like, we're not above that either. But it's the thing is, it's the thing with marketing. You can kind of make it look good no matter what it is. I mean, we could
yeah,
share with our clients, oh my gosh, you guys got, 30,000 LinkedIn impressions this past month. And, previous month you had 5,000. It's like, yes, that is great. But also, did it lead to any discovery calls back to number one? Did it lead to any more, net new AUM back to number two for discovery calls? Did it lead to more net new AUM, which is our number one metric we talked about today? Um, it's just, it can be misleading. So yeah, you've got to really like ask yourself a bit of a harder question there. Don't trust the
yeah.
marketing folks, is my takeaway. So
It's
even though we
good.
are
Now,
marketing
to,
people,
to,
it's
to be
like
clear,
you
it's
gotta
good.
tell the real story.
Over time, continued growth like that is a positive thing, right? Because it will lead to more homepage visits, which will lead to more financial discovery calls. But you just have to dig deeper, you know.
Right.
Um,
Nice. Okay. Nice.
okay, number six, and I put this in here because I think everyone's probably asking about it, thinking about it. I've still seen so many different people in our space talking about just AI visibility and reputation reviews. Just are you being cited in Google AI overviews and also ChatGPT and Gemini? Now, there's a bunch of software, all these SaaS companies that spring up to try to track AI visibility and whether or not you're showing up in the LLMs. I will say that it's a lot of data is coming out that proves that it's very difficult. You're not going to rank number one, two, or three with every single prompt, because there's been a lot of these great, like, big surveys that have been done where people have typed in the same prompt 10, 20, 30, 50 times across a bunch of different chat gpt interfaces, for instance, all over the country, and they get all different responses, right, at all times, and the order of the brands that are mentioned are different, and 80% of the time one brand will be on, and 20% of the time another brand won't be on, and so it doesn't have the same sort of like rank one potential, right, that the SEO world was so concerned with for years and years. So what we look at more is just like uh, you know, bottom of the funnel type of searches, particularly for like local areas, or if you work with a particular niche. And what I mean by bottom of the funnel is Hey, I need to find an advisor in San Carlos, California. I need to find the best financial advisor in San Carlos, California. I need to find an advisor in San Carlos, California that can help me with my tax planning. I need to find an advisor in San Carlos, California that's an expert with tech professionals. Those kinds of bottom of the funnel searches. Are you growing in AI visibility from a probability percentage perspective over time, based on the content you're putting out, based on all the different like marketing tactics that we talked about? We dove into this in depth with our ChatGPT, how do I show up on ChatGPT episode. Are you doing all of those different activities, and then over time, are those bottom of the funnel searches, are you growing in the percentage of times that you show up on those prompts? We have a tool we're going to put in the notes. It's a Geo Rank Tracker. It's a free tool, so you won't have to spend. I mean, those companies are charging $120 a month just to show AI visibility. But we'll put that in the notes just so you can kind of see some keywords that are more of those bottom of the funnel searches to see sort of where your firm lines up. It's not the end of the world if you're not get scoring high with the different bottom of the funnel searches. But it is something to make sure that you're tracking. Is something that we're monitoring moving forward as AI continues to increase in usage. Again, traditional search is still the king, right? It's still something that we look at. But it's something that you should be aware of, I think, as a firm as we continue to move forward. Stephen, what needs to be clarified about that? Because that's a lot.
I think that's well said. Don't send yourself into a panic if you haven't figured out the AI search piece for your firm yet, because it still represents a pretty small percentage of traffic for financial advisor for folks. But yes, I think like long term, there are quite a few things you need to start putting in place that will benefit you long term. But I think you summarized it nicely. Yeah.
Okay. And I say localized bottom of the funnel searches because, I mean, just think about this for a second. Like, best financial advisor for tax planning, national search, right? I mean, it's a crapshoot who's even showing up for that all over the country. But you also know, like, the LLMs, they know a lot of information about you. Like, they just like Google, they categorize you based on your region too, right? So it's going to go there first. Sometimes I get frustrated myself, like when I'm trying to test these things out for clients, and I forget that I need to, you know, uh, characterize myself as living in a different area, because it will always go back to Columbus, Ohio. So that's why I think like the bottom of the funnel searches give you the best opportunity to be found from a brand awareness perspective, if you're trying to optimize for those. And it's just something that we do help track with our clients. Again, we go back to, there's not that many 5 million plus clients that are using these tools as their first entry point to try to find new firms, right? Like, we know from the survey data that we examined back, 10, 15 episodes ago, we know just from our own experience that people are going to go to their friends and family or colleagues or their COIs, like CPAs or estate attorneys, first as a referral opportunity. And then they will use the LLMs to check you out, to try to examine you and compare and contrast you to other firms. But not that many people as of yet that we've seen coming in are like starting with a Gemini conversation where it'll be like, I need to find X number, Y number firm based on my current situation, right? So that may change. That may continue to be something that moves a little bit as we progress, and AI and Claude and everybody else gets like so much more sophisticated. But at least for right now, like, I think the visibility component is really important. And then, Stephen, the visibility important component is important to know of. You just got to be aware of this, right? Like, you want to make sure that you're tracking it so that you understand. You want to put yourself in a good position moving forward, as things continue to evolve. And let's say, I mean, I don't see everyone just abandoning friends and family and their COIs as a first referral source, but you just want to put yourself in the best likelihood. And then, as a part of that, real quick, Steven, I know I'm going to let you talk. I know I'm going on a soliloquy here. As
No,
part of
please. I
that,
love these.
as part of that, the reputation piece is really important. I mean, that's really going to help influence whether or not you show up. Your reviews, and I'm considering this a metric. Your Google reviews, your Yelp reviews, your Wealth Tender reviews, any reviews that ChatGPT or Gemini primarily can associate you with are super important, not just for all the perception pieces that we talked about in our Google reviews episode, but because it's going to help influence your AI visibility. It's a big component of when somebody has those bottom of the funnel localized searches. And it also really helps in the comparative aspect. So let's say that they do get the referral to your firm, but then they're also considering a couple of other firms. Those reviews really influence how ChatGPT is going to compare you on tables and matrices that it's going to do. So those are all like built up in, I think, the same metric. All right, Stephen, go ahead.
Just to go back to something you were saying a minute ago. So right now, I think would it be fair to say our advice would be, yeah, solve for when you're looking at your marketing, you're thinking about your marketing. Don't solve to be appearing in LLM search rankings and worrying about where you are versus your competitors in LLMs, especially if you're going after clients who are $1 million, $2 million, $5 million in investable assets. More so, solve for the people who are going to be referred to you, and think about what they're going to do when they get a referral to your firm, because they might get a referral to your firm, they might also get a couple other names. So what's the first thing they're going to do? What's the second and third thing they're going to do? They're going to look at your website. They're going to check out your videos. They're going to look at your reviews. You just mentioned. They're going to look at your social media. Make sure you have a pulse, and make sure they're going to look at all this content that you have. They're gonna see if it resonates with them, if it demonstrates that it can solve their problem, and they're gonna need to feel a certain way, like, okay, these people get me. So you can do that with content and with visuals as well. Like, we didn't talk much about branding, visual brands, but sometimes when somebody shows up to your website, they're going to pull up your website, and then the tab 2 and tab 3 on their browser are competitors of yours. And how do you want them to feel when they come to your website? I mean, you can influence all that. Just focus more on that. We would say focus more on that than your LLM rankings in terms of, like, where am I in ChatGPT or Perplexity or Gemini, and am I getting outpaced by my competitors because I'm not showing up in these LLMs? Like, for the firms that we're talking about, that we're working with, that are RIAs going after $1 million, $2 million, $3 million dollar clients, you're better off focusing on your own kind of referrals that you're already getting, and just staying focused on your clients that be really for the people who you are for. That's what I would say. So that kind of wraps us up. If you have 2 seconds, we'd love a 5-star rating if you can on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. That'll help more advisors find this content, and hopefully it's helpful for them as it has been for you. And lastly, just send us a note if you have any marketing metrics you want to discuss, how this may look for your firm. Yeah, we'd love to chat about it. And if we're not the right firm to partner with, I'm sure we can kind of help steer you in the right direction. So thanks for listening today. We'll be back with more soon. Bye now.